Hey, how are you today? Welcome back to Everyday Jesus. It's been a few days. I've been sick and just really unable to speak or do much. My voice is still a little messed up. But thank you for joining me. My name is Derek once again. And, I've struggled a little bit today with what to share. This journey is really just about going through the everyday of what it is to follow Jesus. And the last time I shared a little bit about just a trial and struggle that my family is going through. I shared pretty vaguely about that, but in a large sense, we're still in that space. But I was reminded today. I've been thinking a lot about there's a part in the Gospel of Matthew where Jesus' disciples, are going across the lake on a boat. It's the Sea of Galilee, and they left Jesus on the shore, and all of a sudden they see him out in the water, just walking on the water, and they're kind of freaking out, like, what is this? Is that who is that? He tells them not to be afraid because it's him, and Peter says, if it's really you, Lord, tell me to come out with you on the boat. It's kind of a weird thing to say if you think about it. I think there's some more you could dig out of that if you want. But and he says, "Yeah, come on out." And so Peter jumps out of the boat onto the water, and that's such an amazing act of faith because of who he knows Jesus is. Even though this whole time they're not really getting who Jesus is, but because he sees him out there, he says, "Tell me to come, and I'll come." There's so many times when Peter especially just says and does pretty foolish things, but in his willingness to follow Jesus, and Jesus blesses that. And that's amazing. So Peter jumps out of the boat, and then he walks over to Jesus, and it says, at one point it says that he got to Jesus, and then he noticed the wind around him, and he began to be afraid. And he started sinking, and he calls out to Jesus, and Jesus, grabs him and pulls him back up, and he says, "Why did you doubt? You have little faith." It's amazing that the times that Jesus chastises people for having little faith. There's the other spot where they're all in the boat, and Jesus is down at the bottom and asleep, and there's these crazy wind and waves are in the middle of this immense storm, this really just intense storm, and they're afraid for their lives. They all think they're going to die, which is not uncommon. And they go wake Jesus up, and they're terrified. And he tells them again, why do you have so little faith? And what is amazing to me about those two stories is, if you're standing on water and there's wind around, blowing you out, if you're walking on water anyway, or if you're in a boat and there's a huge storm, those situations make absolutely perfect 100% sense to be afraid. The only difference is Jesus is with them. So what he's saying to them is, who do you think I am? Do you know that when you're with me, the things that would terrify the world should not be terrifying to you? Don't you know that if I am the God who made you, and I have called you out on this water, or if I am in your boat, nothing can come against you that can make you afraid? That's what he's saying to them. And I sense that that's what he's, I'm working through these things, and I think that's what he's saying to us in this time. Maybe that's what he's saying to you in this time. If you're afraid of something right now, if there's something going on in your life that's just causing a lot of doubt and fear and panic in you, but if you are following Jesus and you're following a call that he's given you, remember who he is. You of little faith. Me of little faith. So I've been asking forgiveness from the Lord these past few days for my fear. Even though, everyone you talk to would say, oh yeah, it makes sense, it's a tough situation, right? From a normal worldly perspective, it makes sense to be afraid. But this is the Jesus that we're following. This is the God that we're following if we'll believe and if we'll follow. We're not in following Jesus, we're not following just a good teacher or a wise man. If we're following this Jesus, we're following a teacher unlike any other. We're following the God of the universe. And if we're doing that, why would we be afraid? So like I said, I'm reminding myself of that today. I'm talking to myself to try to encourage my own heart right now in the space that we're in. But it's just amazing to realize that and to see these times in Scripture. There are so many times in Scripture where God has called someone to do something that makes absolutely no sense, and that every ledger in the world would add up to deficit, or by every worldly estimation, this is a failure, or it's not going to work, or it's it's sunk. You're gonna die. Like, this is gonna end in tragedy. But if it's the God of the universe that has called you to this, if it's Jesus that has called them out to it, we're called faithless if we doubt and fear. Not as a criticism, but as an encouragement. Have faith. Have faith in your heart and don't doubt that this God who made you, this God who made everything, can overcome the situation that you're in. And if you're not following Jesus today, and you find yourself in a situation where the wind and the waves are about to capsize you, I encourage you, follow this Jesus that made you. Sometimes the circumstances or the consequences of our actions sometimes still take form, come to fruition. But He can still be with you in it. But it's just such an amazing thing to realize that if I'm walking out on the water because I have followed Jesus, He will not let me sink. So I encourage you with that today. I am encouraged by that today as we're in this time of waiting and beseeching the Lord, praying, asking the Lord to be with us, to save us, to bring His work into fruition. We're fighting for faith today, and sometimes we have to. But I encourage you, fight for faith. Continue to believe that the Jesus that you are following is who He says He is and will do what He says He will do. And in that we can have no fear, no doubt. Bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.